Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our teamwork and collaboration session, Marching to the Beat of Teamwork. I am one of your facilitators today. I am Dr. Thea Murphy. I am the Tau Beta Sigma Alumni Association Chair.
And my name is Dave Alexander, and I am the Tau Beta Sigma Alumni Association Vice Chair for the biennium.
And we are happy that you took a little bit of time out of your day to learn a little bit more about teamwork and collaboration. So first, we want to talk about a few things, right? What two words come to mind when you think of teamwork or collaboration? So in the chat, type two words. If you have a little time, type an extra word, but just type what two words come to your mind when you hear teamwork and collaboration. Yes, I see that. Together we have communication and right. And so as we go through our session today, we'll really talk about how important communication is to teamwork and collaboration. We will also talk about how it can lead to success and bring your chapter and your leadership council together. And then, somebody said it's stressful, right? Because you think about you have to deal with other people, right? You have to depend on other people to get the job done. And so we'll talk about some ways to mitigate that stress, to help you manage that stress as you move forward with teamwork and collaboration. So Dave is going to talk to us about communication.
All right. So when we think about communication, it's really about staying in step with the people that you're working with, whether that is a committee that you're serving on, whether that is a chapter meeting, whether that is your band program in general. And so you see the image on the screen. It's something that we're all familiar with. It's that staying in step sequence. And so when you think about that clear communication, it is so important that we think about that from two different aspects. One aspect is what is that message that we're sending? And the second message is the message that we're sending being received the same way that we intended? And sometimes when you think about that communication, we have the best intentions with the things that we've said or things that people say to us. But if we aren't clear in our communication and leave that room where it can be misinterpreted, that's where things can really start to get out of step and create some different challenges that you face within your team. So when you think about your current council's effectiveness or your current chapter's effectiveness with communication, how would you rate that on a scale of 1 to 5? So one being you don't think that your chapter communication is effective or that your council's communication is effective. And then 5 being we think that we are very effective with our communication and everything comes across clear. And you can just go ahead and drop a number in the chat and share how you feel about that. All right, I'm seeing a couple 3s in there, a 2.5. So let's talk a little bit about that. So we tend to put ourselves here right in the middle. And so when we think about that, why is it that was the number that we came to? And you can feel free to come off and mute and share.
I would say that for me, three is always a safe number, but besides that, it's like there's always room for improvement. But then it's like we're not the worst. Like we're not completely falling apart. Everything's not on fire. We're kind of maintaining it and keeping it going. So we're doing all right.
I love that. And what's key with that is your communication is going to ebb and flow throughout that relationship. And there's going to be times where you're going to have meetings or you're going to have projects you're on. And with that same group of people, you're gonna be like, we were really in sync today and we were at that five. And you're gonna have some other times where you're gonna walk away and say, what the heck just happened today? I need to follow up and regroup and go back and have that conversation again. But that's what's key is when you realize that you're not in step.
And I think too, Dave,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was having that looking at that lag. I didn't know you were still talking.
And so you think
But
about that. Oh, go ahead.
finish your thought.
I would say when you think about that, the important thing is those moments where you feel like you're not effective, the way that you respond to those situations is what's crucial. Because if you don't come back and address those feelings, it's going to allow you to continue to have those feelings and it's going to continue to snowball. And so you think about those future teamworks and those future collaborations, you're going to be stuck in that space where you felt like you weren't effective versus allowing yourself to maximize yourself and get to that place where you were very effective.
And I want to add to that, different parts of your council's journey together, you're going to have different communication effectiveness, right? So one of the reasons I put a 3 is because my council is still newish, right? And we're still learning each other. We're still learning what each of us needs, which how each of us communicates, right? Our styles. And so as we continue to learn each other, as we continue to get used to what I need or what Dave needs or what the other members of the council need, our communication effectiveness will increase, right? And so that's very important that as you're developing your councils or your leadership teams or your committees that you're going to be working on, that you spend time in the beginning, and we'll talk about this a little later, getting to know how each person needs communication. And it's going to help improve your communication and your relationship moving forward.
All right. Dr. Thea, you want to tell us a little bit about how we embrace those differences?
Yeah, so I just talked about learning how people communicate in their needs, but we also need to learn to value the differences on our council, on our committee, on our subcommittee, whatever group we're working in. We have to learn how to embrace the diversity of differences to create harmony, the successful communication, the success on the team. And so going forward, there are a couple of tools that you can use to help you do this. And one of the tools that we found very effective is really called the compass points. And any resource that we reference in this session today is in the workshop folder. You'll find either a little slide deck that you can use to re-facilitate this. You'll also find some instructions, some full-length instructions that kind of help you walk through the process if you want to use it. So anything that we reference is going to be in the workshop folder for our session. And so compass points is really great for helping understand the diversity of the team and how people work and what people need to be successful, and then helping you work through that with your team to determine where each person's strengths are. And so just take a minute. We want you to look at this, and we're all going to look at it and decide where you fall on this compass. And of course, nobody's an absolute right. Nobody's a perfect north or a perfect east, but pick the one that first resonates with you and then drop it in the chat, which direction your strengths lie in. Are you a north? You are acting person that said, let's do it. Let's get down to business. Let's try this. Let's get it started. Are you an east? You're speculating. You like to look at the big picture. You want to know all of the possibilities before you start to move. Are you a west? You pay attention to the details. You like to know the who, the what, the when, the why before you act. Are you a south? Are you caring? like to know that everyone's feelings have been taken into consideration and that everybody's voices are heard before you start to move forward. So just take a minute, think about it, reflect. Remember, pick the one that resonates the most with you most of the time, and then put it in the chat. So we all put West in here, right? And so this is important to know for us as a team, if we were a team getting ready to collaborate, right? Because then what we know is we need to be able to identify the pitfalls of having a whole team made of West, right? And then we need to put things into our action plan, into our goals that help us make sure that we are attending to, right, getting started. We don't let all the little details and trying to get all the details hold us back. Also making sure we look at the big picture as well, so that we can plan for obstacles, but also see the beginning and the end. And then also that we take the time to hear and collect people's voices, right? So if we were a team collaborating, we need to make sure that we try to lean in on some of the areas that are not our strengths and plan intentionally for them so that our team could be successful. And so that's very important. And then Dave is the East, right? He's the big picture person, the possibilities person. And so he probably very vexed at us West people because we keep asking all, the details, and he's like, but the big picture, right? Let's look at this. And so we have to learn how to work together, but leading through your strengths, and it's called strength-based leadership, right? Leading through strengths really helps you build your team and be able to plan for potential obstacles, but also honor the way what people need to be successful and to be able to provide that, right? And so when we talk about strengths-based leadership, it first focuses on what's strong instead of wrong, right? So our strengths can help us be successful. And when we're operating in our strengths, we are able to feel personal validation and personal success, but we're also able to contribute to the success of the team in a positive way. When we leverage our strengths of the team, it helps everybody be successful. So if I'm feeling successful and I'm feeling valued and that I'm being able to operate in what I'm good at, if everybody on the team is feeling that way, then as a group, we can move better together toward the goal. It also allows for mitigation of limitations. And what that means is, like, for example, we don't have any South people on this team that we are today, right? So we have to plan for how we're going to take into consideration the voices of the team and the voices of the people we're going to be serving so that we can include that in our details, right? And Dave in his big picture so that we can move forward with understanding of the needs of those who we will be supporting or serving, right? We're not just going on our own feelings. So understanding your strengths helps us to avoid obstacles and avoid the limitations of our team. It helps us plan for that. It also helps you leverage your strength to help with the weakness, right? So for example, right now we don't have any people who, so to speak, are in the South, but if we know that, right, we can use our attention to details, the who, the what, the when, to make sure that we help identify who we need to get input from, right? When we need to get input from them. So using our strengths to help us with those areas that we might have shortcomings in. It also develops team culture, right? By highlighting the value that everybody can add to the team and making everybody feel that they have a valuable role on the team. And then it just helps us work together effectively when we know what we need to be successful, right? We know what each person on the team knows what they need to be successful. We can help provide that as a leader and then lead to the team success and then build a positive team culture. So it's so this is one tool. There's some other tools to do this. The True Colors, the Myers-Briggs. There are other tools that can do this besides compass points, but compass points is really effective for a larger group to help groups. You could do this with your council, you could do this with a committee, you could do this with the whole chapter, to really help people understand where you are and what you need to be successful on the team.
All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about is precision and formation. So it's that attention to detail that you people that are west and the compass really like. And so when you think about the band, there's so many times where we are moving together. Everything is working as it's intended. As the tempo changes, we are adjusting the pace of our steps, making sure our 8 to 5s are still in line. And we're guiding right. And so even though we know we're supposed to be on that hash mark, if the rest of the line ain't on that hash mark, we're with the rest of that line. And so those same skills that we take within the band program are the same things that we need to build teamwork and collaboration. We can't be that person that's just out there saying, hey, I know I'm right, this is where I'm supposed to be, even if everybody else is out there doing something different. So what I'm gonna do is show us a little video here. It kind of illustrates this point. So we're gonna watch a little bit of the Jackson State Marching Band, who was at the ESPN Band of the Year performance this year. And what I want you to watch is just the formation, and pay attention to this corner up here in the top left of the screen. So that square there, oh goodness. Let me get back to that. So when we saw that square up here in the top left, what did you notice?
Emma, what did you notice?
Sorry, I wasn't able to type. They're not, they're all in a line, but they're not with the rest of the square.
Yeah. They missed that mark by 5 yards. And so these two perfect squares that we had on there, they're now slightly imperfect. We have that one group that's out of sync. And so what does that feel like when we as a chapter or we as a leadership team are out of sync? We're slightly off. How does that feel for us? It's that stress. That stress that we talked about at the beginning. We know something's a little bit different. But what's good about this though is we have the opportunity for recovery. And so let's go ahead and watch this just a little bit more and check out the recovery of what happens next. And we are back to where we're supposed to be. So one of the things that I think is important to think about with this is it's not necessarily the problems that you face, but it's how you respond to them. The other thing that's important to think about is in that response, what does that look like to your audience? Because we're going to make mistakes. And if you think about Tau Beta Sigma, there's times where we make mistakes as a chapter. We make mistakes as individual members. And so what does that outwardly portray to our audience? There are times that they're going to look at us and say, you know what? They're a little bit off right now. But how we respond and how we get ourselves back in sync, that's where the magic comes in. That's where the power of our leadership comes in, is to be able to make sure that anytime we have that outward mistake, that we take care of it, we get things back in order, and we continue along just as if it's business as normal. So we're going to go ahead and watch one more video here. And so when we think about this, we think about the problems that we face. Sometimes we come up to different situations that are a little bit harder to face. And so this is a video at the Rose Bowl, and there's a tight corner at the Rose Bowl that is notoriously difficult to navigate to make the turn. And so we're going to go ahead and see how the Ohio State marching band handles this. All right. So what are our thoughts on that? Have we ever seen a band do something like that? I know I have not. And what's interesting is you could watch the Rose Bowl parade every year, and you're going to see so many people tackle that corner with the same approach. And that's where that teamwork and that collaboration really comes into play, is because when you're able to step back, really take a look at the problems that you're facing, the challenges that are ahead of you, you're able to take multiple people's opinions and come up with a different approach that could help you solve that problem differently than you would have by standing there thinking about it by yourself. I can guarantee this wasn't one person saying, hey, this is just what we're going to do. This was the effort of multiple people coming together saying, we have this challenge we have to face. They were able to lead the band on how to do it. They had plenty of opportunities to practice it so that when time came for execution, everything moved forward. And those are the same things that we're going to face as a chapter. We're going to have different things that come up that we have to face all the time. And if we always take the same approach, we could be limiting what is our full potential as a team.
Yeah, Dave, and we also have to look at others who have done this thing as well. So I'm sure these directors and the people planning their formations looked at old film to see what issues other bands had at this corner and some of the ways that other bands attacked this corner so that they could plan their attack for the corner, right? So we have to do the same thing as chapters. There are other chapters doing the same initiative as national initiatives as us, right? There are other chapters who might have struggled with very large membership or very small membership or fundraising issues or service problems, right? So that's where we can leverage the power of our district council, right? That's where we can leverage the power of our sister chapters in our district or other chapters who we meet at national convention and reach out to them and say, hey, we're having this issue. How did you, when you attack this, how did you do this, right? So not just hearing all the voices, but also looking at what others before you have done to be successful in what you're about to do to help. So it's about leveraging your resources as well. And being flexible, right? Because we all have a plan, and that's really important. All of us go to something with a plan. Most of us are not flying by the seat of our pants, just out here winging it, right? We are attacking something with a plan, but when we are encountering an obstacle, we have to be ready to, when we're encountering an obstacle or a change in tempo, right? We have to be flexible and work around it. We can't let one obstacle derail our whole plan, right? So that's why we really have to have everybody involved in all the voices so that we plan for potential obstacles and we have a plan to address it when it happens. And so moving into that, whose job is it to do that, right? And so when we talk about we want leaders, we want you to think of yourself as a conductor, whether you're a committee leader, a council leader, right? Or just a student leader in the band. You have to think of your leadership like the conductor. The conductor is not the one running around playing the flute solo, then going to the percussion and playing the timpani part, then running over to the French horn and playing the French horn part, right? They are the ones guiding the band. They are telling the band when to rise and fall. They're telling different sections when to come in and go out, right? They're keeping pace, making sure everybody is moving forward together in the piece, but they're not out there trying to play all the parts, right? If the piccolo player stops piccoloing, right, and something happens to one of her little buttons, the conductor's not trying to go over there and play the part for her, right? The rest of the section has to cover for that person, right? And so as a conductor, this quote here is very important. My job is to teach the music, not just how to play the notes on the plays, right? We're teaching the whole part. So as a leader, we have to help our team with all the parts of the work, right? We have to help them see and understand the vision and the goal. We have to help them action plan and see their responsibility in the work, right? And then we have to help them execute and stay on point. And then we have to help celebrate their successes as individuals on the team, and then celebrate our successes as a whole, right? So the leader is really you're conducting that piece from beginning to end. And then want to point out a few leadership quotes on this next slide that really bring home some of the points of a leader, and then we'll dive into one of these that resonates with you as a leader or as a future leader and talk about it. So just take some time and read these quotes, and then gonna give each person a minute to kind of talk about the quote that resonates with you and why. Okay, Emma, we'll start with you. Which one of these quotes really resonates with you? And then just tell us briefly why.
The first quote, because in like my past, I know that there's been a lot of points where people go for leadership positions because they want, the title and they want the name of it. And multiple times throughout my life, I've not gotten said positions because they tended to be more popular and, got the vote. And almost every single time those clubs and those groups that I was in, they wouldn't flourish because those people, once they got the title, they kind of just sat back and like let things go and didn't care about, actually putting the work in. And the entire group was what suffered rather than, flourishing.
Yes, right. I think we've all had that experience in our work life, right? In our school life, in our band life, in our chapter life. We've all had those experiences. And so one of the things one of my mentors always stressed to us is whether you can be a leader even if you don't have the title, right? And so if the person who has that title is not doing what they need to do to move the work forward, it really is up to the other leaders in the group to lead through your strength and still make the work happen. So like we're in chapter, we all want our chapter to be successful. If the person at the head is not being successful, then it's up to the other leaders, whether you're a official leader or an unofficial leader, right? Because in Tau Beta Sigma, we're all leaders, to help move that work forward. And this is actually one of my favorite leadership quotes. It's one that I have on my professional resume because I think it's really important. It's about your passion. It's about the results. Like it's a whole big picture, right? So I agree with you, Emma. Dave, which one resonates with you?
For me, it's the third one. The first responsibility of a leader is to define reality. The last is to say thank you, and in between, the leader is a servant. And to me, that gratitude of the people that you support goes a long way. The biggest way to motivate people is to let them know that you appreciate them. And just like you talked about the last one, that piece about being that servant leader, if you are in a leadership role, it's never about you. It's always about the people that you serve. And so anytime somebody's entering into that leadership role, that should always be your guiding principle is your motivation should never be about yourself, but about the people that come after you and about the people that you're serving at that moment. And so that's, for me, that's the one that resonates.
I agree, Dave. And also the servant leader is the one that's always at every service project, sleeves rolled up, serving alongside, right? The service leader is the one that's always in the workshop that we're going to, that's always showing up and being there, working, serving right alongside everyone else. So that I really think that's great. Nikki, you want to share one that resonates with you?
The first and the third really resonated with me strongly. But I think the next one in line for me that I was like, ooh, is the fifth one. Because to me as a leader, part of it is seeing the strengths of the people who you lead and then empowering them to use their strengths for the success of the whole. So sometimes as a leader, like you're saying, it's not about going out and playing everybody else's part, but making it possible for them to play their part. So whether that's getting resources, making sure they feel confident in their ability, or just clearing some of the barriers that may be in the way. If you can do that as a leader, then your folks are going to do well.
Definitely. And I think this is really also important for the sustainability of chapters, right? When all the members in the chapter are empowered and all the members of the committee are empowered, then when the leader leads the chapter or leads the council can continue to thrive and build upon the work of the previous council to be successful. So I think that's very important too. And then just to pull in these last two that we all, it probably resonated with us, but not as much as some others. One of the tests of leadership is the ability to recognize problems before it comes an emergency, right? Part of our work as leaders is to look out and see the potential pitfalls, the things that, some people might say, oh, you the doom and gloom. No, we're the realists, right? We say this might be a problem, this might be a problem, this might be a problem. It's like we talk about plan A, B, C, and D, right? We need to be cognizant and realistic that there might be problems and what those problems might be, and then plan for them. And then when something does happen that we didn't plan for, we don't just let it keep going, right? We take action to mitigate it and work around it. And then finally, the essentials of leadership: humility, clarity, courage. You really have to be humble to be a leader, right? You have to be able to take criticism, right? You have to be able to realize that might not always achieve the goal the way you want to achieve it, right? You might not always want to achieve it when you want to achieve it. So you really have to be humble to be a leader. And like Dave said, to be that servant leader. And then clarity, right? You have to be clear about the vision and the goal so that you can help others be clear. Just like we go back to that conductor, the conductor has to know that piece from beginning to end. They have to know all the key changes, all the tempo changes, all the volume changes, right? So they need to know everything about that piece so that they can help guide the band through it. And then lastly, courage, right? Sometimes you're going to have difficult conversations, make difficult decisions, or do something that's different than what's always been done, right? And you have to have the courage to lead through that. So thank y'all for engaging in this conversation, but it's really important as we think about our leadership and who we want to be as leaders, and who we want to continue to develop as leaders, right? Because every day, every month, every year, we are developing and growing as leaders. Thinking about some of these things as we continue on our leadership journeys. And so Dave is going to talk to us about another tool to help us as leaders guide and lead our teams.
Yeah, so this tool here, it's a situational leadership model. And when we think about this, what this is telling us is that we are not defined as a whole, but the tasks of what we do. And so it very easily, I'm sure we've all heard this at different points in our lives. We say, Thea is an awesome leader. We say, Nikki Lyons is the best person ever. But in saying that, we're putting this person's entire experiences into one bucket. And there may be things that Thea has an opportunity with, or Nikki has an opportunity with. But by us saying, Nikki or Thea, you are completely awesome, during those moments when they have things that they're learning, we're not going to give them the support that they need because we always think of them in this space that they're doing great things. And so if you look over here, you will see in the bottom right these four things. So it's a D1, 2, 3, and 4. And so what you think about this is that D1 is someone that's learning a task. At that point, they have low confidence because they don't know what they're doing, but they have a high commitment because they're excited to try something new. Then as you know, as you're learning new things, your emotions change. And so this D2 person, that's someone they're starting to understand it. They're just learning it and starting to build a little bit of confidence, but they have a low commitment because this is hard. You're teaching me something new and change is hard. This D3 person, I'm continuing to develop this skill. So I know more than I did yesterday. I know more than I did the day before. My commitment's variable though, because I'm starting to see that I have successes. So I'm feeling more confident, but I also still have that fear of failing sometimes. And so I'm not in that place where I say I'm 100% confident yet, but I'm definitely feeling a lot better. And then this D4 person, this is someone that's highly competent and they have a high commitment. I know what I'm doing. Let me run with it. I got you. And so when we think about how we lead those people, we have to lead them very differently. And so that's where these situations come in. So if you have that person that's a D1, they're just learning this task, they are really excited about it. We have to give them a lot of directive behavior, but not necessarily a lot of support. They already have that high energy, that high excitement, but they have no idea what they're doing, so we got to teach them. Whereas when they start to learn that skill some more, but they start to get that low commitment because they're unsure because it's uncomfortable, this is where we still have to give them a lot of direction, but we also have to give them that support now to say, hey, we know you can do this. As they move into that third spot where they're continuing to learn more, and they're starting to feel good, but that commitment's variable, we don't have to give them as much direction. They know what they're doing now. We just have to give them that support to be like, you got this. You know what you're doing. Go ahead and do it and be great. And then that fourth person, a lot of what we're doing is delegating the work to them because they know what they're doing. And so we don't need to give them a lot of direction. We don't need to give them a lot of support. They're ready to run with it. And so when you think about this motto, it's called situational leadership because depending on the task that you're working on, depending on the project you're working on, where somebody's at could be very different. So they may be a new committee head for your chapter. Being a new committee head, they may be an S1. But as someone that's maybe planned the band banquet before, maybe they had a lot of success. They served on that committee last year. And so maybe within that task, they're going to be in this S4 quadrant. And so it's really important to make sure that we're not thinking about these individual people as a totality, but as a sum of all these different situations that make up who they are.
And that goes back to what we talked about, valuing the strengths of your teams and the people on your council, right? When you know the strengths, right? When you know the experiences, when you know the skill set, then you can support through a model like the situational leadership and give everybody just what they need, right? To be successful and to feel valued and to meet the goals of the organization, right? And so it's really important to take time as you move into leadership, a new leadership position, to really take time to get to know the strengths, the skills, the experiences of the people you're leading. So then you can use a model like the situational leadership model effectively. And so, in talking about that, right? So we've talked about getting to know your teams, getting to know the strengths, leading based on the situation and the person that you're dealing with, right? We talked about moving forward together with precision, detail, flexibility. And now we have to talk about getting better, right? Whenever we do something, we need to be reflective and gather feedback so that we can continuously improve our leadership, so we can continuously improve our chapter activities and initiatives so that we can continuously improve and get better. And so when you think about that and you connect it to the band world, right, we're always practicing. We practice as a band. We practice our music. We practice our parade music. We practice our stand music. We practice our field show over and over again. We practice our field routine, right? Then we go into sectionals and we practice again, right? So it's always practice to help us improve. And we get feedback, right? Whether it's from our section leader, whether it's from the drum major, whether it's from the dance team, dance committee who's teaching the dance, or the team that's in charge of the drill team, whether it's from your band director, right? We're getting feedback. We're reflecting on our own practice. We might record ourselves and listen to us play, right? So we're doing all these things to improve our musicianship, improve our things as a band. We have to do those things as a chapter too, right? And so one tool that we have and we want to discuss is a SWOT analysis. And a SWOT analysis looks at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you can really do a SWOT analysis for your chapter. You can do it for a committee. You can do it for a specific event. You can do it pre and post so that it helps you prepare for the event, to think about all the obstacles that might come up, all the strengths. We talked about leading from strengths, the strengths that your chapter or your committee has to help you be successful, and then opportunities that you can leverage to ensure success, and then threats, things that are going to threaten your success. And then afterwards, do another reflection to really do a deep dive in the after. And so this tool is also the situational leadership stuff is in the workshop folder, but also the SWOT analysis and a couple of other tools that we provided that if a SWOT analysis is too deep, right? And we provided the plus and delta tool as well as a start, stop, continue tool. But it's very important that no matter which tool you decide to use, that as a part of your continuous improvement process, that you use some type of tool to regularly reflect and gather feedback and think about next steps for what you're going to do, right? Because if you're doing the band banquet, as Dave said, you're going to do the band banquet every year, right? So we need to learn from what we did this time, where we were successful, opportunities, the weaknesses, the threats, so that as we plan for a next band banquet, right, those same threats, right, are not there. We leverage some of those opportunities that were there, maybe that we didn't take advantage of. And so this SWOT analysis, we have tailored these questions to chapter and chapter activities and initiatives, but these are not the only questions you ask, right? And so when you think about say if we stay on the band banquet and you think about it, as you're planning for the band banquet, you really want to think about, what does your chapter already do well? Right? What do our chapter and band members say you do well? So getting feedback from others outside of your leadership council. Is there anything unique about your chapter or unique about your band that you want to highlight as a part of the band banquet? Do you have a strong chapter identity, band presence, campus presence, right? So if you don't have a strong band presence, you really want to drum up this band banquet and make it a big thing, you're going to have to leverage some resources to help you, right? So these questions, for example, threats, sorority, campus, social trends that could work against us. If you're planning the band banquet, right, you need to look at what's going on the campus that week. You don't want to plan the band banquet on the same day that they're having the campus awards day, right? Because that's a conflict. So really taking the time to do a SWOT analysis as you plan for events. And then again, after the event is over, to help you brainstorm and prep for your next cycle of planning for the event. And it's really key in a part of our continuous improvement. It's like our band practice. And so As I said, there are a couple of other tools that we have in the resource folder as well, to help you think about ways as a leader. You can make it a habit of doing continuous improvement, reflection, and feedback to help you action plan for next steps. Dave, you have any, oh, you want to add about the 2068, 2060,
2060-20. Yeah, so essentially what this is it's a change management thing. And so we know that we're going to be rolling out changes within our groups all the time. We need to keep them working together. And so when you think about this, anytime you have a change, 20% of the people are going to love it and can't wait to dive in and try it. 60% are going to be tentative, believing it's right, but they're going to be timid and unsure of themselves. And then that last 20 people are going to be resistant because they like things the way they are. And if they work well, why change? And so when you think about this and when you're rolling out change, you have to build your advocates, and that's your top 20%. And so when you build those advocates, get them involved in your change and what you're going to do moving forward, you're building those advocates and you can recognize them publicly. By doing that, those 60% of the people that are tentative are going to move into that bucket where they want to try it because they see the other successes. And so the reservations come away. And so at that point now, 80% of your people are change advocates to be able to help that bottom 20% adapt to the change and get into that place where things are going to be well. So there's some tools in the shared drive that you'll be able to have access to. And so this is another one that's in there. I know we're getting close on time here, so we're going to run through one last activity. And so when we think about this, it's about that active listening piece. And so anytime that we're in this space where we're thinking about teamwork, collaboration, we have to listen. We have 2 ears to 1 mouth because we have to listen twice as much as we talk. And so we're going to go through a little video here. I am loving the videos today, but I want you to go through and watch this video and listen to what we're hearing here.
For you. Hit it, Shirley! Come on, when the clock strikes 12, we'll cool off and start.
So how often does that happen to us where things become what we're accustomed to? And so we just expect what we're going to hear. But as we were going through this video and we saw the words on the screen, we heard the lyrics different. And so how many times do we go into situations expecting outcomes, expecting to hear certain things, because that's what we're conditioned to hearing? We know that if we go in and we ask a certain person a question, they're usually going to say yes. And so that's just what we expect as we learn and grow in the communication. But if we're always going in with that anticipated answer, we're not really listening to understand that person. We're not really listening for their situation. And that's what can set us up to miss the message. And that's what can create a divide in our communication that we talked about all the way back at the beginning. And so this here is that piece that goes back to everything we talked about and brings that full circle, is how we listen, the intent that we listen to sets us up for a solid foundation for teamwork and collaboration moving forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Thea to bring us home.
Yep. And so Dave talked about that active listening to help move us forward. And so we talk about marching forward together with our collective process. And there are kind of 3 parts to this: synchronized movement, collective progress, and next steps. And when you think about the synchronized movement as a leader, when we talk about teamwork and collaboration, we have to first make sure our goal is clearly defined and that we have a detailed action plan to help us meet that goal. And then we talked about leveraging those strengths so that we can outline the responsibilities for everyone and make sure that clear timelines are established so everybody's clear of when stuff is due, when the event will happen, when we need to meet certain milestones. And then when we talk about that collective progress, making sure as a leader, we talked about being that conductor, right? So we have to set checkpoints and we have to check in with people, right? We also have to update the team and make sure everybody's reporting out. So keep everybody up to date on the progress. So if we have subcommittees, right, each subcommittee needs to be reporting back to the whole so that everybody knows the progress of the initiative or the progress of the chapter. And then we talked about earlier, celebrating the ongoing wins, right? When we get, yes, we sold these many tickets. Yes, we have our cutlery ordered for the banquet, right? Whatever those small wins are, we have to celebrate the people and the activities so that we keep ourselves encouraged and moving forward together. And then, of course, we have to troubleshoot those obstacles. We have to work around them so that they don't derail our progress. And then finally, making sure that we always come back to that mission and vision, making sure we always have that strategic plan foremost in our minds as we plan our activities, making sure that we're getting that feedback and reflection, and then making sure as leaders we lead through all of these things we talked about today. And then we have one more, let's talk. And so we talked about next steps. We want you to commit to a next step and tell us in the chat what is one actionable step you plan to take to strengthen teamwork and collaboration in your leadership and your chapter activities. So if you could just type something in the chat for us. It doesn't have to be detailed, but just one thing that you're going to commit to. It could be using one of the resources. It could be redelivering. It could be learning more about the strengths of the people in your chapter. So just think about what's one thing you're going to commit to. Okay, so Emma says she's going to commit to learning more about the strengths of the sisters in her chapter. Okay. Nikki said, considering the situational leadership model when training. Okay. Dave, you want to share one?
Yeah, but learn more about preferred work styles within our council.
Yes. And then for me, I think it's about learning more about using that situational leadership to work with the members of my council. So definitely next steps, and make sure you write it down. If you're a journaler, put it in your journal, put it on your sticky, put it in your phone, whatever method you do to keep yourself accountable. And so with that, we're going to share our contact information. This is how you get in contact with Dave and I, as well as TBS alumni, because we know that once you're all ready to graduate, you will be coming over to us and joining us in the alumni realm. And so this is how you get in contact with us. And our emails are here. The first one, chair email, is mine. The second one, communication email, is Dave's. And the third one is the TBSA email overall. And then we have enjoyed being with you today. We're going to open up the floor if you have any questions or any final comments you want to leave us with. And we just want to thank you for giving us a little bit of your day, and the rest of the beginning of 2024. 2024 is going to be a great year for you as leaders, for you as sisters, for you as people. And so thank you. Emma, you have anything? Nikki, Dave, you want to ask a question or add? And then I'm going to let Dave close.
Currently, I don't have any questions.
Dave, anything you want to add?
No, just all the resources are here. And so as you're going through the resources that are going to be in the shared drive, Some of them are going to be new for you. And so you're going to be one of those D1s. And so don't be afraid to reach out for some help and say, hey, I really want to use this tool. Can you give me some guidance and help me walk through it? We are happy to spend that time and really look forward to seeing you all grow and thrive in your leadership journeys.
Thank you so much.